Hi there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to another episode where I review films currently in theaters. Today I'm talking about The Exorcist Believer. So, The Exorcist Believer it was directed by David Gordon Green and pretty much is about these two girls who go into the woods, disappear for 3 days, and then come back as possessed children, and it's up to this group of people to try to drive the demons out of these two children. Now, I'm a huge fan of the original Exorcist. I know, shocking. I mean, I'm pretty sure almost anyone who's seen that film is a huge fan of it. And uh, I really had high hopes for this film going into them. Unfortunately, this film really didn't have to be an Exorcist movie. So this film, The Exorcist as a franchise, always tends to focus a lot on the exorcist performing the exorcism. It's a huge part of the movie. Whereas in this film, the exorcist is really a group of people, and as such, the film feels a little unfocused at times, and it seems to really want to focus more on the possessed individuals. Now, that's not a bad thing, it really takes a huge part of what makes The Exorcist interesting away from this particular film. Furthermore, the Exorcist movies have always had and used religion as a stepping off point, but this movie's really preachy about it, and it really just feels off for a horror movie, and it just there's a lot of like we need to work together and kumbaya stuff, and it's like that's cool and everything, but this situation's pretty terrible, and you guys are kind of taking it in strides at times. That's the fact that I really don't need like every religious example that this film is talking about explained to me, because I'm not an idiot. I can figure all this stuff out on my own, and I feel like most audience members really could. But there's a lot of times where the film tries to explain what's going on to the audience as if they are idiots. Add that to the fact that the film is very, very heavily relied on jump scares to try to startle the audience, and you get yourself a pretty standard supernatural horror movie that isn't that scary in the slightest. This isn't helped by the fact that, well, since there's a lot of characters in this movie, there is a feeling that there are certain people who just don't get like the development they need. Like I said in the beginning, there are two children in this movie who are being possessed. But to be honest, I get to know and understand one of the children's family dynamic, the father and daughter character, with the father being played by Leslie Odom Jr. We get to see their dynamic and understand that situation a whole lot more than we get to understand the other child's dynamic with her parents and her home life. We don't really get to understand what's going on there, or if there's anything to really talk about. Add that to the fact that in the final like few scenes, there are a whole bunch of people in this room trying to drive out these demons, and I don't know much about any of them. I only know really much about the father and daughter character that the film has been focusing on. And those characters are interesting, but if you're going to have a whole room of people who are in danger because of their attempting this exorcism, yeah, you gotta make me care a little bit about everyone else in the room. Otherwise, I really won't care for most of the time. Then you have the performances, and honestly, this is probably the best part of the film. All the performers are doing a great job. And this is where I want to talk about Ellen Bernstein. She's a fantastic actress, and I really like her. She should not have been brought on for this film, as her character and her performance really showcases why you don't bring in a legacy character for one day of filming, because that's clearly what was going on, and she doesn't bring anything extra to the film. They hinted at some cool stuff that they could have done something with, but it's really kind of brought up and just kind of dropped almost immediately. There's about 3 scenes of Ellen Bernstein in them. In fact, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen pretty much every scene she's in. Which, again, is huge waste of talent. The visuals are fine for the most part. There are some cool little practical effects being used. And the possessed girls really have a creepy look to them. I think the visuals are fine right up until the final 2 scenes where the CGI starts to happen and it doesn't look good, which is a shame because we're talking about, The Exorcist, for God's sakes. The music's also just a mild disappointment, as it's not even noticeable, and the score really isn't anything to talk about. It really feels almost like it's trying to rip off Halloween's score at time, but forgetting what made that score good. At the end of the day, this film is a huge disappointment. I'm hitting it pretty hard. There are some cool moments and some cool concepts that, if fully explored, could have made the film a whole lot better. But as it stands, this film is your standard supernatural horror film. And that's a shame because we're talking about a movie in the Exorcist franchise. I really wanted more than just standard here. That being said, if you go to see this film, you're not going to hate it. You're just not going to find anything all that interesting or different about it. And you're going to come out with a feeling of just mild contentment, and that's a shame. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give The Exorcist Believer a 5 out of 10. I recommend this one to anyone who's, bored and has nothing else to do with their time and is just like supernatural horror movies. I actually will not recommend this to fans of The Exorcist because, you will be disappointed. Anyway, that's what I thought about The Exorcist Believer. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time.